Um, I think probably the first challenge you come across when you start refereeing is actually sort of going on that field for the first time in charge of a game, because it's pretty much, imagine when you jump in your car to have your first driving lesson, but it's just a driving lesson. You make mistakes, or you can't fail your test. It's your first driving lesson, and there'll be another 14, 18, another 20 lessons before you actually have to go out there and do the real thing. And when you're a referee, when you get on that field for the first time, it's like having your first driving lesson and that being a test at the same time. That's what it feels like. So it's quite a daunting experience, really. So that's what we try to do now with young referees who are starting now. They'll do a level 1 referees course where we sort of give them as much information as we can, but there's nothing like going out in the field and learning. And then what we do then is we'll put them to run touch then with another experienced referee, so they can see what he's doing on the field and being part of the game. And then after doing that for a couple of times, we then will move him on to referee games. And that tends to be school games, under 12s, under 13s, and games like that, so they can get the experience. And if they make the mistakes, it doesn't really cost anybody any money, or cost anybody a league, or cost anybody his life. So they start at the sort of, the really sort of lower levels of the game, and then they progress through the ranks, really. So, but when I started, you were just chucked in the deep end. Anyway, it was quite daunting, really. I remember one of my first games, or my second game actually, was as a 16-year-old boy, was police B division against Cymraithing seniors in Camar then, and the police walked off just after half time because they didn't agree with my decisions, and that was quite daunting. And that was nearly enough to make me finish refereeing after only 2 games, really. But one of the guys who was there watching me refereeing, was giving me a lot of help then, Nigel has passed away now, who's a bit of a referee assessor. He came to school on Monday and told me, look, don't you give up, don't you give in to them, you stick to it, and they'll be dealt with. And they were sort of, I can't remember what happened, they were banned for a couple of games or whatever happened. So yeah, it is quite daunting when you start off. Yes, you are an integral part of the game, because as you said, you can't have a game without the referee. And with that, you are an integral and important part of the game. You're not the most important part of the game, and I think that's the first lesson I would tell any referee is you are not the most important person on that field. You are an important part of it, a small part of it, but an important part of it, but you are not the most important part of it. The game is for the players, and then it's for the spectators who come to watch the players, and then you, the referee. Although it's an enjoyment for you as well, and you want to enjoy it as much as everybody else, that's who the game is for. It's for them, not for you. But you are a part of that, and they won't have the game without you. So you are an integral and an important part, yet a small part of the game. And I think that's hugely important, I think, for any referee to remember. I think that they are, just a part of the game. And I think if you then do your job as a referee, which is refereeing the laws of the game, there's a framework, there's a laws of the game are there. There's a framework that allows the game to be played in a certain way. And if you apply those laws, then the game should look after itself. The players then will be able to enjoy because they're playing within the framework. The framework is built in order for that enjoyment to happen, and in order for the competition to happen, and in order for the game to happen. And I think that's all you have to do. I wouldn't go out in the field there and start thinking, right, I've got to try and make a game of this so people can enjoy. You go out there and referee the laws of the game with a bit of empathy, of course, because the easy job is blowing the whistle. The difficult job is knowing where not to blow it. And you get that balance right and referee the laws of the game, and the players in the game will look after themselves, and they will enjoy the game, and then the spectators will enjoy the game. And I think, you're there to referee a game. Nothing more, and certainly nothing less. But I think there's a lot of things that sort of the referee will have in his character and his armoury for him to be good at what he does, for him to be able to do the job that he does. And the most important thing above everything else is the safety of the players on the field. So that's where the framework of the laws are there, so that it brings an element of safety to what is a very physical and hard game, where accidents will happen. So as a referee, first of all, is first of all, as a referee, is your fairness, that you were fair to both sides. It doesn't matter if you were better or worse than the referee they had last week or the referee they're going to get next week. As long as you are fair and consistent to the both sides for that 80 minutes or for 30 minutes or whatever long the game is, or whatever age group it is, that's the most important thing. And that's all people expect from you. They won't expect every single referee to be the best they've had, but they will expect him to be fair to the both sides. And of course, the other part of the game that's important as well is, you're controlling 30 players in a physical, hard sport. So you need to be in control. Sometimes you need to be firm, but fair. You need sometimes to raise the level of your voice to keep things in control. Be in control, but don't be officious. Be firm and be fair. There's a lot of skills, your management of the game, understanding the game, knowing when to blow the whistle, knowing when not to blow it, the way you communicate and deal with the players, all of that is part of, and fitness is another thing. You need to be, pretty fit to referee the game, to keep up the play. There's so many things that come into play as a referee, but the most important thing that underlines all that is, for me, is two things, is fairness and enjoyment, and then everything else will fall into place within those. But probably for all the referees starting the game, the first thing that you probably notice that they need to work on, and I was no different, was your positioning. Where do I stand? Where do I go? Because especially if you're coming into refereeing from playing, you've got to do something totally different. You've got to look at things differently. You've got to be different positions. You haven't just to worry now about tackling him or receiving this pass and what am I going to do next. You've got to keep an eye on 30 players on the field all the time. So positioning is probably the first thing, and then also for young referees in particular is the control of the game, controlling the players who try to influence the referee, or the old experienced head who will try and con the referee into some decisions, is being able to be firm and dealing with them, really. And those, I think, were two of the first things that I had to learn, was to be firm and to control the game, and also your positioning and stuff. And that's probably no different now to any other referee, really. I remember reffing a second 15 game in Pontevedra in my first season or so, I think it was. And I remember reffing the game, coming off the game, and Eldon said to me, "Oh, well done," he said, "well done, well refereed," he said. But he said, I remember a referee refereeing years ago, Kenjo they used to call him, he used to referee in a blazer. And he always used to keep his whistle in his pocket, in the blazer. Because by the time then he got that whistle out of his pocket to blow it, he'd had time to think, oh, I don't really need to blow for that. And then he could put the whistle back down. Because if you have the whistle here ready, when something happens, you've blown it, it's too late. And I learned from him then as well. So every time I referee, I keep the whistle down by my side. And then when something happens, I bring them, by the time I've got an extra second or two then, by the time I blow it, oh, I don't really need to blow it. It gives you that little bit of time instead of reacting, really. It's a bit like somebody when, I suppose, when you're asked a question, you answer straight away, oh, I answered that wrong. Well, if you just take a second to think before answering, and then your answer may well be better. My tips for a referee who wants to get into refereeing or is starting refereeing is first of all, do it because you enjoy it. Don't do it because you want to do it as a job, which you do in future. It's great. Or I want to referee a World Cup final. Well, that's a good ambition to have. But first of all, you need to do it because you want to get involved. You want to, and you're enjoying it. And you couldn't get involved. You could think, right, I want to give refereeing a go to see if I enjoy it, which is great. Or you could just end up doing it by chance, like most people do, where you turn up, and you've done a level 1 referees course, and then you help out refereeing some local school games or see a local club game, and then you start refereeing like that. Or you may get injured and then you want to start refereeing, or you think, right, I'm not going to make it as a professional player. I'll give refereeing a go, see if I can do as a professional referee. But underlining all that, is the enjoyment of it, and that would be my biggest advice. Do refereeing because you enjoy it, and if you do it for the right reason, you're enjoying it, it's the next best seat in the house. You're right there in the middle of the action. And the other thing I would tell them is make sure you are fair. You are honest and fair to the both sides. And if you do that, if you're honest and fair and you enjoy it, then you won't go far wrong.